I tend to write for big orchestral, symphonic orchestral sounds, basically because I think they don't age the film as much as synthesizers do. There is some electronics, but they're there to extend the orchestral palette. They're not in the score for their own sake. Synthesizers come and go. You can listen to scores and you know that they spell out 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and they tend to age a film. They tend to date films, whereas the big symphonic scores technically sit behind the picture very much more effectively. I think you can have a great big orchestral texture and lots of dialogue without it clashing. The orchestra is enormous. It's a huge 90-piece orchestra, especially throughout the film. And there is, as I say, a fair bit of electronic fusion, but not so as you'd notice. Dinotopia is a great challenge because it's enormous in its scope, and part of the magic for me is trying to get an audience into the world where one believes that dinosaurs speak, and that one can have communication with these rather superb animals, and that they have a sensitivity and an emotion which one really isn't used to associating with huge sort of Tyrannosaurus rexes or a pteranodon or any of these massive sort of dinosaurs. They're not the sort of creatures one usually finds cuddly and indeed intelligent. So part of the job and the role of the music is to try and get the audience into a state of believing this world, a state of falling in love with this world. And it is a beautiful visual world that has been created at great cost, and it looks absolutely stunning. At the end of the day, one's trying to imbue images with an emotionality. You're trying to bring out the meaning of the film. You're the voice in the ear of the audience. You say what they're meant to be feeling about a scene. And it's very challenging in that respect because the way one manipulates an audience's emotions is quite an art form, That's the craft of scoring pictures. It's like a giant tapestry. One has to weave one's way through the picture. They're very essential to confirm in the minds of the audience where they are emotionally, and they're kind of tags, they're labels, they identify characters, they identify places. What you're doing is making people feel and respond to images in a particular way. And using reverse parameters of music, you can do this with rhythm, with harmony, with melody and so on. You can actually manipulate an audience's responses. Music, it bypasses the intellect, it goes straight to the heart, it addresses the emotions. It's something that is an essential element, thank heavens, to filmmaking, because it's something that people don't really take on board when they're watching to a great extent. It works in a very subtle and subliminal way. In terms of influences and composers, I think people like the Middle European composers, Korngold and the swashbuckling mega scores of the 30s and 40s, those composers are really absolutely wonderful. I do love the Bernard Herrmann scores for the Hitchcock films and other scores of his too. It was Gulliver's Travels which started it, and then I went on to score Merlin, and more recently Cleopatra. Merlin is pretty... I enjoyed doing that enormously, because I was able to go back to the Arthurian legend that I started out with in Excalibur. I enjoyed that enormously. Over the years, I would look at Excalibur if I caught it in a hotel room somewhere and think, if I had an opportunity to do the Arthurian legend again, I would want to do this or that the next time. And Merlin was such an occasion. Hallmark gave me that opportunity to put 18 years of professional experience into a reworking of all those ideas. So I find it was very exciting from that point of view. There's so much computer graphics involved, and one doesn't know what the image is going to be until virtually you've seen it on the television. And a lot of the time I'm looking at blue screen, I'm reading the script, I'm trying to find out what the final image will be, not actually seeing skybacks or little line which says the pteranodons fly screen left to right, and that kind of indication of what the action will be, basically because there's thousands and thousands of computer graphics which will not be completed until virtually the air date. So there is that challenge of using your imagination and trying to rise to an occasion which you hope will be, where the music won't overpower the images, but one's never certain what the images are going to be. So it's always quite a challenge, and one that I really enjoy enormously. Dinotopia, it looks absolutely stunning. I mean, it's this sort of place I wouldn't mind going to for my summer holes. Actually, it's a wonderful place.